No cap. uh, so yeah, okay. I was talking about this is part three. I know we or is it part four? I don't know. I'm gonna do one more, I guess, because I'm almost sort of through it. I guess I'm in July, but when my scooter popped, uh, I was suddenly landlocked and just walking everywhere. And that's really, I don't know what, I think I felt guilt about not being, when I bombed doing stand up comedy the first time, I kind of got intimidated by it. And I honestly didn't do it again for like a couple months. And I didn't even bomb that hard. There was nobody there hardly. But like, uh, you want to do the best you can. It was like the guy who hosted it, he came down to watch me. You could tell he was kind of interested, thinking, who's this guy? Want to see if he's any good. And he probably watched me and just thought, well, this kid sucks. But, I don't know. For some reason, it did take me a while to, like, get up, because I was like, I didn't have enough material or my jokes. Nobody's going to get my John Giorno impersonation. I didn't really, this was before we did the Dime Store show, which kind of like, performing with those clowns and stuff with System Lord was a way to sort of like introduce myself to that scene and sort of like perform alongside them. But I'm already doing something that I've been doing for a long time. What I've been doing with System Lord is really just a continuation of what I did with Wavetable and what I did with Holy Smokes. And, my brother was in town, like I said, so, like, I didn't have a lot of time I wasn't doing performances at that time. But, oh, that's right. This Mercury Lounge gig was supposed to be July 5th. And then the guy, like, double booked it or something because I emailed him late. So if you read my chat book, you see there's all these references to, like, the gig got canceled. And so, like, I was pacing it out a certain way. And I just felt super guilty because it was like, oh, my fucking gig got canceled. Now it's like I'm not doing enough shows. It's like my time is running out in this apartment with my money in this situation in Manhattan. It's like, I'm not doing any of these comedy open mics. I'm not doing poetry. I missed the fucking Pete's Candy Store, Dead Pete's open mic in July. And, like, that's mentioned in the chat book. Oh, I overslept and my tire popped. I was anticipating that, like, I could ride my scooter to all of this shit. I could ride my scooter to Pete's Candy, so it wouldn't cost me money, right? I could ride my scooter to the local hostel in Long Island City. But when that popped, it's like suddenly I'm walking everywhere and I'm taking the train again. But, honestly, it was sort of a blessing in disguise in a way because that whole Bloomsday book came out of that. You know, I wrote that book because I wasn't on my scooter. I was walking around the West Village, walking, I wrote a lot of it in Washington Square Park or on benches, uh, Bleecker Park, because I just wanted to crank out a lot of. You can see the influence of stand up comedy and of podcasts in that book more than any of these other books. The poems are longer, they're sort of talkier, there's a lot of references to stand up comedy in it. And so, I don't know. There's something about that book that I think kind of works uh, maybe a little better than the other books I've made this year. Not that they're not good too, but that one I think is kind of like interesting. It's maybe the standout. The Bloomsday book. It's 2 words, not Bloomsday. Bloomsday. And so, that book, even though I wasn't doing gigs, I was like, I think doing the Pete's open mic had inspired me to write a bunch of new material. I think I thought, oh, fuck, like, I don't want to read any of the shit from my older chat books, the Kerouac book or the Single Room Occupancy book, because I had read that stuff. I don't like to read stuff twice generally. Or, I really like to space it out if I'm going to read stuff twice. And so I probably just thought I need a lot of new material. And I need to be productive because, like, also the poetry project season was over. So now I had more time to myself. And it's like I wasn't performing. So I felt guilty. So it's like, I better write a bunch of stuff. Plus, I got these new pins. I bought these pins at the dollar store, which originally I hated. They're almost like a needle. They're like a mosquito kind of like nose. They're so needle, they're like a proboscis. And I had been using these pens, which are like very, oh, well, not that, but they're like very wet. The ink is like very wet. And so it was like kind of hard to write a lot of material because the ink would get on your hand and it'd like get on the other pages and shit. So I couldn't really write, I'd write little blotches of like lines. And then I'd have to wait for it to dry before I put more in. Whereas like then I got these pens from the dollar store, which originally I hated because the line was so thin. I was like, this is going to vanish or something. But then I realized, well, I can write a lot with this. I'm not held back by the fact I have to wait for it to dry and it's going to get on my hand and this and that. And so all those poems from Bloomsday were written in these little notebooks that I got that I was just out in public just writing as much as I could and just like really focus on cranking out a lot of. I think I was inspired maybe by doing the Pete's open mic. But the Bloomsday poems are really from that period, like what is it? June 8th through July 4th. So I think I typed it up maybe right after July 4th. And I think I started reading it. So oddly enough, the first time I did Elizabeth Street Garden, because I think they were doing it in June, was July 10th. And that is just like one of the most special things I've been a part of in the past couple years. When I look back on the past couple years, I will remember like doing all this stuff at KGB, doing Elizabeth Street Garden, being a part of the Poetry Project stuff, of course, all the System Lord gigs, which are almost like different planets or something, my own guitar gigs, the stand-up comedy stuff. We played Mercury Lounge. I can't say like we really killed it, but like, just even I had played there once with Holy Smokes in 2015. And so it felt important to go back there. Mercury Lounge is kind of a famous venue historically, and as far as Manhattan venues goes, it's one of the last, I would say, of those kind of places that are still kind of authentic and from that era, from the 90s or whatever, where they still do stuff. It still feels like a place where you can go and see young people's shows. Like Bowery Electric's newer, even Niagara, it's like they don't really have shows at Niagara very much. So Mercury Lounge, it feels, Arlene's Grocery maybe. But Mercury Lounge is like fucking Radiohead has played there and shit. Like it's kind of a big deal. And so, it was a nice show. I can't say that I killed it or anything, but we played with T's band again, and they brought a bunch of people out. There were a bunch of dudes there to see them. So it was like we met some cool people, and we're just trying to figure it out. We're just trying. By this point, Andrea had joined the band. I think Andrea's first gig was the gig in Connecticut. Weirdly enough, which honestly was like a necessary. I think adding Andrea obviously. It just takes. It triangulates it. That's a stronger thing. And I mean, she's incredible. It's just she's an incredible person and musician, and it's a lot stronger. But, System Lord has been on this kind of like slow, steady clip where we play about one or two things. Usually it's like a month apart. We always play gigs at the end of the month. And so it's like we'll spend a few weeks without even like seeing each other. And then at the end of the month, we'll do a gig. And so this was also the time when I did the KGB bar reading July 19th, which was, I had booked people who worked with me at Poetry Project, basically. I basically just did a group reading. And that was, I don't know, I just felt like booking I don't know what prompted me to get back into doing poetry reading, but I know that I kind of wanted to do something uh, for the volunteers, just because there was no opportunity for them to read at anything. And I think I wanted to explore doing another event with KGB. Um, and so by this point, I knew enough poets. It fell together pretty easily. I remember everybody said yes, quickly, and so it's like the roster came together quickly, and I don't know what prompted me wanting to like do something poetry specific, because I was kind of burnt out on it, or like bitter about it to some degree at this point. But I don't know. I think this was actually the first point where I actually knew enough poets to like throw a reading. And so I wanted to explore doing stuff with KGB, and so it felt like maybe this was like my last chance to try something like that. And that reading was important for a number of reasons. First of all, it was just a good reading. It went well. I hosted it, I booked it, and a lot of people came out, to be honest. I mean, it wasn't like overly packed, but like it was well attended, definitely. And like that's where I met Matt the Essential Minch, Matt DeGroat, Jonathan Aprea was there, Roberto came out. Like it was a good crowd of people. Like and the readers were hip, and so they brought their friends who were also hip. Yvonne Lee Bien was incredible. That was just like, it was an important thing, because afterwards, I had kind of a conversation with my friend, and she was like, she didn't like how bitter I was. And she was like, you should focus on the KGB thing. You should focus on doing that. Don't be bitter. Don't just spend your whole time like, focus on this thing that's positive. And that's really what switched in my head when I thought, okay, I need to do, if I'm proactive about this, that's going to give me, like a positive place to work from, rather than like just living in this place of like, I could begin to move on throughout this whole period. One of the things I didn't mention was like I had a couple of meetings with like some personal heroes of mine that didn't really go anywhere and were kind of disappointing. And so my attitude about poetry and just like how to conduct my career and things gradually shifted. It wasn't about getting published or getting accepted by certain people anymore. It was more about just like, well, I don't know, I'm going to do as many shows as I can. And I sort of found a life doing that. The open mic before the pandemic was also an important thing in my life. But like I said, I sort of had this informal rule that I wasn't going to do them anymore. Whereas in the summer, that's when I really found out, like, oh, wait, no, like, the open mics are kind of the best thing for me, because I meet tons of people, and I go to all these different places, all these different scenes. There's a number of reasons why. And so, I don't know, I started to re-embrace poetry stuff again because I think I had sort of some success with it. I think people had sort of responded positively. Uh, the Elizabeth Street Garden things usually went well. At one of these readings is where those girls came up to me afterwards and told me that they love my chapbook. That was really kind of something that like switched something for me. Because to be honest, I mean, it's not that I haven't had people like tell me that they like my work and stuff, but to have like total strangers come up to me and say like we've been reading your book and like we're fighting over the copy that we have, that was like kind of crazy to me. That was sort of like, whoa, maybe I am good at this. You know, like all these people at Pete's started to like be positive towards me, and younger people started to like support what I was doing. And so like these Elizabeth Street Garden readings were really important because like first of all, it's just like a beautiful magical venue. It's McNally Jackson like endorsed, so that's sort of a name. But it's like packed. You know, there's like 40 fucking young people like laying around listening to poetry on like a gorgeous like summer day. The fact that you can get up there and just like, you know, I was usually a standout for better or for worse. And I met a lot of great people through it. That was probably like the principal reading series I did over the last couple years. You know, so that was the first time, I mean, having those kids from Vassar come up and said that they like loved my book and were like, you know, reading it over and over again was like, that was the beginning of me starting to just like be more Merry Christmas, everybody. I think it's after midnight. It's officially Christmas Eve. This is my Christmas special from Manhattan. I just want to get that $1 million view in there. I know you can't really see shit. Oh, if I just move this over a little bit, I guess it'd be better. I move it here. That's kind of better. So this will be the last one. That Castelli open mic. I didn't, you know, I was so bitter about the way that guy at Castelli Cafe had treated us that I didn't go back in there for like months. And they did this open mic all summer, every Saturday and Sunday, and I never went. And then I went, and I actually did a great job because I played songs that I knew kind of would work. And you know, I kind of killed, you know. I've been doing all this other stuff, you know. I've been doing poetry readings and kind of getting success with that, and doing System Lord and stand-up comedy. And that was the last gig I think I played with the guitar. T was there, and this dude from the New York Daily News, I think, was there. And the fucking open mic, that was literally the last one. The bar like closed the next day. They were just like done. So it sucked because I thought, oh, it's right, you know, it's right down the street from my house. They were doing it every Saturday and Sunday. So it was stupid of me to not just like go out and do that because it would have been an easy thing to do kind of on the weekends. Just my luck. As soon as I started doing it, they put the kibosh on it. August, this is when I like really kicked it into overdrive. If you look at my last 5 months, I was just trying to do as much shit as I possibly could. Because I knew that my time was kind of limited, and like I was suddenly gaining confidence and kind of like agency to just like go out and do everything. You know, I just felt like, okay, I've got August, September, October, November, December. I need to just, you know, do as many, hit 88 miles per hour before I hit the wall, like I say in the poem. I need to do as many shows as I can, you know, while I have this opportunity. So doing these Phoenix open mic, I did the Phoenix open mic every Monday in August, basically. That was an important series. Meeting all those people, Oliver, Jennifer Juneau, of course, who's in my chat book a bunch of times. I don't know. I guess I should have taken her name out, but and Dee Dee Champagne. I mean, everybody at that open mic was sweet. That was really like my favorite. I felt comfortable there. They were super supportive. They were the first people to ever book me as a feature. I think, really, technically, sort of. And so it's just crazy how it all goes down. Um, because this was right around the time where I started to talk to KGB about doing an open mic. I emailed them in August about doing it. And because, like I said, my friend had said, well, why don't you focus on that? And so I thought, okay, well, I better get, and I said, KGB, yeah, like, let's do the open mic. They emailed me about it, and I didn't respond because I was just like, they wanted like a $750 thing, and I was like, I can't be responsible for that. And so I didn't respond. And then they emailed me about it like a few weeks later. And so I said, I thought they are interested. They will go for it and like kind of work with me a little bit. They seemed interested. It wasn't just like, I didn't have to like, pull teeth or anything to get it done. It seemed like they kind of came to me. And so I thought, okay, this might work. But I had this feature. So the caveat was it was basically going head to head with this Phoenix open mic. Not really, but like they're both Monday night and they're both in the East Village. Phoenix open mic is like from 7 to like 9. Mine is like right from 8 to like midnight. So they're not really in competition. It's a different group of people. But they had just booked me as a feature. Literally, I was going to go from being a feature at their series to starting a competing series the very next week. So it like kind of put me in a weird position. I didn't feel great about it. But that's just life. That's the story of my life, Just these kind of like confusions, near misses. But this Phoenix thing was an important place for me to develop, try stuff. I mean, I never like really went over super positively there. I experimented with a lot of different stuff, and I would get really high, so I did a lot of insane things. There was a little bit of a performance aspect, art. What I loved about that venue or that open mic is it felt like the East Village. It felt like locals. There is this whole scene of people in the East Village who are still doing it, having book release party. Ron Colm and Philip Giambri and Linda Kleinbub and Sharon Mesmer and all the people who were at Hillary Keel's benefit thing. Big Mike. There's a great scene of people out there, and I was starting to be a part of it a little bit. I was starting to sort of travel, even though I kind of do my own thing. I don't think they totally loved my style or anything, but like I was kind of running with them for a little while. I mean, that's what's fun about doing these open mics and doing all these events is like going to all the different places, meeting the disparate friend groups, the disparate scenes, and taking the message to different locales, different communities. A lot of, I did a KGB open mic, Dead Pete Society. So Dead Pete's that August, that may have been when I really felt like I didn't want to miss it. I missed it the previous month. I usually had to miss it for work, because I usually work the first Friday, but like that's when I first felt like accepted and shit like that. This was the first Long Island City Hostel poetry night, August 11th, a Thursday. So Matt DeGroat had seen he came to the KGB open mic, and I don't know if he booked this after that or before, but I think he was inspired by it to kind of pursue it, and that's been a cool relationship. My goal, it might seem not hip, or what's the point of going out to Long Island City and doing this open mic, but if you can keep a little fire burning there of poetry and like literature, and like it's a hostel, you got a lot of interesting people coming through there. I like having a foothold in Queens, for what it's worth. To be able to go to Williamsburg, do Dead Pete's, touch base there, go to Queens. I loved, one of my favorite things I did this year was going out to that Long Island City mic and then walking back over the Queensboro Bridge and walking down the east side of Manhattan, walking down, First or Second Avenue past Sutton Place and all those east side, in the 30s, all those hotels and shit, the United Nations. It's a very glamorous area. And walking, so I'd go to these readings. What I usually do is I'd take the train one way and I'd walk back. I don't know if there's anything more poetic or like the feeling of like you're flying over the city rooftops than like walking home over the bridges of New York. The bridges like really feel like you're on the rooftops and you can you're flying, you can see out everywhere. And as a poet, it's like, it's kind of crazy to me that like I can take a train to Williamsburg and walk home in like an hour or an hour and a half. Like I was totally happy to do that and see everything, see all the streets, see all the neighborhood. I want to see all the layers of everything, to study it in depth, to to familiarize. And even walking back from Long Island City to here, it really wasn't bad. I mean, I got tired from doing it all these times. Like my body was tired from walking that much. A lot of the performances and shit, I was either doing open mics or I was laying in bed or something, And, but the walking was like a part of it. It was exercise, and it was like, I don't know, that's part of like the poetic Walt Whitman saunter thing. I really do feel like I don't know, I have barely left a few square miles of this house in the past couple years, And so I've walked practically everywhere. So I felt like, I don't know, I kind of have had like this primitive lifestyle. My whole life is about going and getting food, kind of climbing down from my treehouse, going and getting food, getting high, getting supplies, whatever I need, groceries, whatever, walking around, looking at stuff, maybe talking to people, maybe writing stuff down. I haven't gone to bookstores at all this year. I kind of phased that out of my life. I don't really have money, or, I have so many books already. I just figured, like, I cannot keep bringing more into here because what am I going to do with them? When I have to move, I don't, I already have too many. So, basically in February, I kind of cut myself off. It's been more about, like, I want to write my poetry directly from life, from things other people say, even from things I hear in songs and movies and shit. I would rather draw from that than, like, I don't know, a bunch of highly specialized poetry stuff to some degree. I mean, there's definitely stuff I've been interested in studying. Joe Chiaravolo, Fits of Dawn recently. Ann Waldman, Anselm Hollow. I mean, it was Midwinter Day the other day. But, going to all this stuff. One of the most important shows I did this year was this day I went to Young Ethel's. I did the open jam where I played piano. I did the caffeine-free open mic, and I did the stand-up open mic at the end of the night. So I did 3 shows, and they were all pretty interesting. That was the first time I had done stand-up since the first time I did it in June. So it was 2 months later. And so that was kind of an important breakthrough. Doing it in Brooklyn, the open mics feel like kind of more free. You can get weirder, go nuts. In Manhattan, it feels like everybody is trying to be like a club comic doing a certain thing. System Lord played Young Eccles. That gig was kind of a dud in an unfortunate way. Not that we weren't great, but just kidding. There was another KGB open mic in August that I did. I have no recollection of that, but it definitely happened. I did stand up at Caravan of Dreams. That was kind of awkward, but I'm glad I did it. Neuronautic, I went there a bunch of times. That's a great open mic. That's the one that Charlie Kaufman was at. You know, it's like you start to do more, so it's not that you don't remember them, but that rooftop reading at Jonathan Aprea's rooftop in Crown Heights, that was really special with Will Ferris and James, of course. And did Corey read on that? I think maybe. Corey read at didn't she? She read at the KGB one I did, because she's awesome. That's pretty special to have Corey come out and read. But the rooftop at Crown Heights reading, that was like special. It was just like going everywhere. I walked home from that. That really fucked me up, because that was like 6 miles. And I had already been walking everywhere else, so it was like, that put me out for a few days. I had to lay in bed all day Sunday, because it was just like... But the video that Jonathan Aprea took is really good. It's on my YouTube page. It has a nice look to it. So it was like reading on a fucking rooftop in Brooklyn. That's, more of that, This was when shit started to get going, I did the Music Inn open mic. I did a pretty good set there at the end of the night. I'm always performing at the end of the night at these things. I like when there's kind of like less people. I still feel like I'm in the experimenting phase. I like going to these stand-up open mics and just getting kind of weird and like, I don't know. I guess being like personally revealing in unusual ways, and maybe like, I don't know, unhealthy ways. Here's another Dead Pizza Society in September. It's like, like I said, it was hard the first few times. I really was not making friends with people out there. But I just it was scary to keep going. Because it's like, but the poets who were good were positive about what I was doing. And so I felt like, well, that's weird. That doesn't happen typically, And so maybe I vibe with these people. Maybe I resonate with these people. And, I mean, yeah, that's the crew, definitely. I mean, it's just, I can't remember. So the Tom Cruise poem, I can't remember what I read at this one. I think I tried to do better. I remember I read something at one of them that was like kind of sleazy sounding, and I think the host didn't really like it. So the next one I was like, okay, I got to do something good. And so I had been doing all of these fucking open mics all over the place, plus System Lords and this and that. So it was like, if you're doing them that much, it's like you kind of know the material that is like, I don't know, the most effective, And so if you have to go in and do a good job, then it's a lot easier. Then you're just like, okay, I'll do this one, That's what comedians like they have their 5 minutes of jokes that like really work. And if they need something that really works, it's like, boom, okay, I'm going to use that. But, a lot of the time it's just like, let me read some weird diary entry about Tom Cruise Maverick Top Gun, you know, the film of the fucking year. The last movie star. So I don't know, it's weird. The months became kind of like these sequences, or like these like uh repetitive works, or like works in a series, you know, where it's like I'm kind of doing the same open mics repeatedly each month, because they do them like first Thursday, third Thursday. So it's like I did the LIC Hostel open mic. I did the Neuronautic open mic. I did the fucking Dead Pete's open mic the first Friday. Uh, so it's like you're getting more familiar with the people there. You're getting to know them. You know, it takes a while for these people to like remember your face, and kind of, I don't know, like a lot of these, like this Neuronautic open mic, I know that they're not impressed. A lot of times when I read to older people, they're not that impressed. I think they look at me and they think, this guy thinks he's hot shit, and it's not quite doing it for us. And I don't know, I think their poetry all sucks, so they don't know what the hell they're talking about. That's my self-defense mechanism for everything. The New York Poetry Festival was in September. For some reason, they decided to do it September 11th weekend, which was kind of poignant considering it's in New York Harbor. And it was a good reading. It's always fun. You know, I sold a bunch of books. I made money, so that was good. I did, you know, like I said, I did my first feature 2 days later. You know, so here's the action. Thursday the 8th, Long Island City open mic, where the guy kind of lets me just read what I want. You know, he like respects me. He's just like, do whatever you want. So it's like I could go out there and I could stretch. I could try shit. I read some of my longer pieces. I read for like 10 minutes, you know. Like, even though it's like there's less people there, or maybe it's not a poetry audience, it's like, well, still it's good practice. You know, it's all practice for everything else. You know, that's the point of doing it. It's not like necessarily that this open mic is going to be the end all be all, but like I'll be less nervous when I go to the next one, or maybe I'll meet this guy Bill Callahan or whatever. He was at the fucking open mic last night. It's like, dude, he called me out from the stage. He's like, "Oh, what's up?" It's because I see him at open mics constantly. I did my first feature. It's on fucking YouTube. I don't know. I tried to compile like a fucking good overview of shit I've been working on. But I read Hot and Ready, which I've never read before. It's like a longer piece. I think it's 8 or 9 minutes. You know, but I'm a feature, so I was like, okay, here's my chance to read Hot and Ready. I went over my time. I think I read for 20 minutes, but I don't care. You know, the time limits are, we need more time. People need more time, and like to relax their kind of, you know, the marathons. There needs to be more marathons. And the open mic is kind of a marathon every week. You know, it is like this mini kind of like huge kind of undertaking. The 23rd was when I read for the New York School Studies academic thing from Paris. So I read on Zoom. They were doing this conference about New York School Studies, and I read some of my fucking New York School poetry. I think it went well. I chose my material. I read Chelsea Girls, you know. I didn't say pussy, though. Because I just wasn't going to do that in front of French academics, you know. It just, the poem works without it. If you take the word pussy out of it, it's still, you just say juicy. And it's you know, when you say pussy, people go, kind of, the wrong crowd. The academics. I got paid $50 to do that. So I have been paid. One of the important things I did this year was we played at Long Island City Hostel with System Lord too. That was good. One of the most important things I did this year was I did the slides and the AV for Karen Finley. So I got to I was like reading the script while she performed. And so, like, I could see she was like riffing and like embellishing on the lines. You know, like you'd see what was on the paper and she kind of repeated a bunch. She was trying to like find it. She was trying to find it, but also like the repetition was part of the poem. And so it felt like that was kind of a hands-on kind of instruction or something. Like, here's some firsthand knowledge. She's like a performance art poet, but she also does visual art. She's got some really good books from City Lights. She's like, you know, a very progressive kind of feminist and things like that. And her stuff is political and super good. But so that was at John Giorno's bunker, which is also, you know, like this historic, you know, fucking William S. Burroughs lived there and shit. So to even be like on the team there is kind of fucking crazy. And like meeting the staff there, they need an AV person. I should probably try to get a job there, but I'm super unqualified. I'm incompetent at everything, actually. That's my big secret. Because I've been unemployed for the last 10 years. Explain any gaps in your employment. Well, for the last 10 years, I've been smoking weed chronically, making a public access TV show where I put myself naked on TV, and I write radical poetry pamphlets that are against everything you stand for. So I don't even want to fucking be here. I hope there's no drug test. What was I talking about? Oh, the bunker and John Giorno and how I'm incompetent. I could not be an AV person, but they should hire me anyway because that's who they should have at the bunker. John Giorno would want me to have this job, and he'd want me to not have to actually do anything. Their equipment is dope. They have this amp that's like from the fucking like 70s. Jesus Christ. It's hardcore. It's like some kind of David Cronenberg fucking device, or H.R. Geiger designed this PA system. It looks like fucking satanic. I did do a theater performance. I read the stage directions for this play at Tuesdays at 9. I tried to get involved with theater shit, kind of. I was just going in every direction. Poetry, stand-up comedy. There were no boundaries other than the ones imposed by the squares out there. But this was also the beginning of the Easy Paradise. How could I gloss over that, you know? September 19th was the first one. There were not that many people there. There were about 12 people. Well, the truth is I didn't want to advertise it that much. Or I couldn't because I didn't want the people who booked me as a feature the week before to find out I was doing a series that was like their direct competition. So I couldn't really start advertising it until the day after. And so there weren't necessarily that many... There wasn't really a flyer that was that promoted initially. So it took a few weeks before. The third week is really when it was like kind of packed. But the first 2 weeks were... They were like trial runs. I felt like it needed to kind of... There needed to be like some rehearsals. I'd never hosted an open mic. Well, I had, I guess, in my basement. But like... I hosted an open mic in my basement. But... You know, just getting familiar with the equipment and this and that, it felt good to do a couple dry runs. I think Matt Silver was the first person that ever performed on it. So that's kind of a piece of, that's an auspicious kind of baptism right there. You know, so this is my MFA. This is, you know, my whole poem about, I got my MFA from the streets of New York. That's what the fuck this is what I'm talking about, you know? Going to all these goddamn places, meeting all these people. Putting, like Eminem in 8 Mile, okay? Putting your fucking money where your goddamn mouth is. Lose yourself in the music, the moment you own, you know? And you, you are up against the wall and you have to prove it. You take that microphone and you lay it the fuck down. And you lay it on these fucking people and you convert them and you get over with the fucking crowd. And my style is different. You know, I go up there and I do a little bit of a weird thing that nobody else does. And so I'm always kind of the odd person out. And I'm not really sure if people are even going to get my style at all. If it doesn't work, though, that's kind of your own fault. And so that's something that I struggle with. It's like I wish that my stuff just knocked people out. I don't know. I'm incompetent. Once again. That doesn't make me a bad person. I am the compere, okay? I'm the father of the gathering. That's what I do. I bring the juggalos together. I did the producers club. I guest hosted at Long Island City. I made a gourmet meal out of nothing. I went to Long Island City. There was nobody there. I was the guest host. Not even the regulars showed up. And I whipped up a gourmet dish just out of the fucking people that were in the bar. We had a great show. We had a lot of talent. We had this guy singing Boys to Men style, white boy miasma kind of music. We had the bartender shared her very kind of personal, intense, good poetry, like that gave me confidence just going out there and doing that and seeing, oh, okay, I could do this anywhere. You know what I mean? I'm the MC. It's just like being a wedding DJ. You take your equipment every fucking place. You take the PA. You are the PA. You are the show, and you go to the different catering halls. That's all it fucking is. You go to the VA, you go to the Schneider House or whatever the fuck it was. There was some German fucking... I played AmVets, okay? I DJ'd birthday parties in goddamn AmVets. That's where I come from, okay? I am from the underbelly of this fucked up, poor ass, right-wing ass war machine. Vaudeville and Vice, that was a Soho Playhouse. That's been one of my favorite rooms to do, Soho Playhouse. I've loved my performances there. Producers Club is where the improv was from Seinfeld. So I've literally stepped into Seinfeld. So now I'm living the dream. Now we're finally up to speed. We're having salons. We're having poet gangs running around Manhattan. We're having, Chelsea Hotel martinis. We are, doing even more than that as well, we know. And it's taken a couple years to get up to speed. Now I don't know where the runway goes, because now we're here, we're living the dream, and yet we're running out of money, we're running out of lease, we're running out of I don't know. I guess that's it. That's not too bad, I guess. Don't have a job, running out of job, running out of time. Brendan Lorber, the feature, that was great. I mean, the KGB, the open mic has been the kind of like anchor, but then it's important to go out to all these other shit and meet the people and bring them back and host them. You have a home. You go out into Brooklyn, you go out into Queens and pull the people in, The New York Art Book Fair, that was fun. I did the Comedy Shop. I did 2 shows there. I want to do more shows on Bleecker and McDougal. That's like a dream, personally. I kind of chicken out when it comes to that stuff. I kind of skirt around. I did St. Mark's Comedy Club. I did Matt Silver's open mic that he hosts. The microphone was fucking up. Dead Pete Society in November. That was when we were hanging out with Zlad afterwards and Dolan Morgan. Jonathan Apre was... I think that was the one that everybody came out. James was there. Sarah Ann Wallen was there. Or Sarah Jane Stoner was there. I'm sorry. That was legit as hell. It's great to be able to witness all these different writers and all these different writing styles and